Welcome to Crypto Disrupted, a cryptocurrency and blockchain podcast with your hosts, Trent Lipinski and Greg Kerr.
Well, welcome. I'm Greg Kerr. This is Trent Lipinski, and we're here with Crypto Disrupted. We appreciate you joining us for another episode. And we've been looking at the impact of the blockchain on the human existence and teams and small groups. And today we have a guest with us that's going to talk about the business application of the blockchain, beyond some of the things we've discussed and beyond the hype around cryptocurrencies. We have Salim Ali from Loyakk, which is a business enterprise blockchain application. So welcome to the show, Salim. And could you tell us about yourself and what you're working on?
Hey, Greg, thank you. So as Greg mentioned, we are an enterprise software company. We are based here in Silicon Valley. What we're trying to do is apply blockchain to the business application stack. And I'll go into more detail later. The principle being, how can an enterprise truly leverage the potency and power of blockchain to do fundamentally different things and things that they could not do otherwise thus far? So really bringing blockchain into the enterprise stack.
Okay, so what do you mean by that? So the way a company operates internally, you're saying, like to bring the blockchain. Correct.
Well, what we're saying is, you see, my background, just to kind of put things in context, right, is SAP, Symantec, and very enterprise in our thinking. So we looked at the problem from an enterprise and we said, listen, enterprises engage with many ecosystem members, business partners. Because the company never goes to market alone. They never service a customer alone, right? They always do it with a network. Now, these networks are partners, channel, supply chain, service providers. What we said is the way enterprises share information, data, and value with these external parties outside the enterprise is completely broken. Broken meaning it happens on email most of the time. And we all know how secure and not secure email is, right? There's no auditability that can be forwarded. So we say we're going to help enterprises to really transform this inter-company engagement using the potency and power of blockchain.
Okay, so if you're a business, you're obviously working with other businesses and everybody needs to get on the same page outside of just the email. So yeah, if somebody's on email, that's an email symmetric connection. You want to create those ties within one system.
Yeah, we can decentralize and truly protect all intercompany engagement. And I'll give you an example how this came about, if it's the right time, right?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so we have a very large software giant as a customer today who's been working with us. And it's very fascinating. They've been using us to engage with one of their top customers, a big Swiss company. Now, this is going well, they're using our platform, all that's fine. They come back to us and say, listen, Salim, we have a new problem. Can you help us with it? What is it? Well, we have a new deal, an RFP that came from our big customer. It's a $40 million RFP. Now, in that RFP, there's about $3 million in services revenue that we cannot do because we don't have the capability to deliver the service. We want to bring in a partner into it. So, it's Accenture, the partner, by the way, a very big company. So we want to take page 17 to 24 and share that section of the deal with this partner. So ask them, how do you do it today? Well, we cut and paste and send by email. This is very sensitive customer and deal data going in free form on an email. Then they also say, by the way, and it's not just that, we have another $7 million in services in channel revenue is going to come from a channel product that we don't sell, like channel partner sells. So now we cut and paste page 45 to 55 and send it to the channel partner.
So you're kind of talking about the ability to compartmentalize information.
Compartmentalize.
Some stuff to go with partners, but other parts of this, like say an RFP, has to be retained into the parent company, right?
Yeah, the thing is truly end-to-end. There's the customer, there's the vendor, there's the partner, there's the service provider, there's the agency, all of them, they're there. And so how do you really orchestrate the end-to-end connection so they are obviously protected, auditable, and fully trackable? Because this is worth millions of worth of deals and data, very critical business information, right? And that today, ironically, is done, believe it or not, using very old archaic systems and tools. They're not geared for that.
Huh. Okay.
So
Yeah,
what kind of digital assets are you guys writing to the blockchain? What kind of data are we talking about here?
Yeah. So Trent, we are talking about three kinds of data. First is unstructured data, which is simple conversation, chat, unstructured stuff, right? Hey, this deal is important. We need to respond to this by Jan 31st, whatever.
Yeah.
Right? It needs to be protected. It's about this company, customer A. That's one. Second is any digital asset, an RFP, a PDF, a video, an audio file, an invitation, whatever that could be, right? That's the second class. The third is the value aspect, meaning we want to both do a joint PO to a design firm. Today, I send a PO, you send a PO, you pay part of it, I pay part of it. It's just happening. So look at it as unstructured data which is more digital, any asset, if you will, PDF, PowerPoint, what have you. Third is value. So that's the spectrum of what our customers want to use it for.
Got it.
and that's interesting because so it's kind of like taking us back to the idea that you can start cataloging data within an enterprise and then sharing that data with people that have privilege for that information. So it's a knowledge management system that can kind of detail down to which data goes where.
Right. So you're right. The way we look at it, Craig, is that, look at broader enterprise relationships. Now forget CRM. It's not just a customer, right? You go to market never alone. You go to market with a network. And your network includes a bunch of enterprise relationships, right? So we say we are in the enterprise relationship management business for businesses, right? Meaning for enterprises, for companies. So as an example, if you are a automotive manufacturer, I'll tell you a real example. Let's say you're Nissan. Now Nissan, or any company for that matter, has a bunch of subsidiaries, a bunch of design firms that they work with on platform design and component design. You'd be surprised to hear that this design, which is very critical to them, is shared today using FTP and email-like modalities. It's unbelievable in today.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that, because these partners are small, big, on different platforms. So what is the most common denominator? FTP and email. So they really want something that they can drop into a container. It goes, and we know it won't go beyond that.
So you're talking about permissioning here is essentially, ultimately what it sounds like your blockchain solution does is it helps create permissions to be able to make sure that when you're sending one data from one place to another, that only the people that are supposed to see it can actually see it. So that's how you're kind of leveraging the blockchain and then kind of layering on a permissioning system on top of it.
Yeah, very much so. So Trent, that's a very interesting point. When we talk about blockchain, most people talk about blockchain, the first thing that jumps to mind is Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Obvious reasons, right? Which is essentially just the visual, nice, shiny currency manifestation. But if you unpack all of that, right, blockchain as a platform to secure assets is very, very powerful and potent. What we said is, what does the enterprise mostly care about? Their data, right? Their deals, their sales information. So how can we use the power of blockchain to really secure that asset?
Yeah.
Right? Is how we looked at it. And I'll give you a very simple visual metaphor for this to think this through, right? Think of us as a digital FedEx network. We are allowing you, Mr. Business or Enterprise, to lay your own FedEx network. My network has these 50 partners. The runway to these 50. That's what our platform will allow you to do. And a token is the envelope, the armored car that will give you. So I want to send something to my partner in China. It's a design, put it in there, boom, it goes, guaranteed. It won't go anywhere. The right person sees it and cannot be propagated beyond that. So it's a private permission blockchain network that allows you to permission data as well as the underlying object that needs to move across.
Got it.
All right. So Salim, real quick. So I've got this background in government. That's kind of where I'm coming in. Trent's the Silicon Valley guy. I'm the government guy. And of course, when I hear that you can kind of compartmentalize information this way and track it securely, and then also give permissions to different people. I mean, the government is kind of built off this system where we had information that we could use amongst ourselves. And then when we shared it with partners in Europe, or part of NATO or part of a UN force in Afghanistan or something like that. All these different permissions had to come down on the data. And we started having to kind of like code the data almost line by line and then have humans look at it and say, okay, and this consumed years of my life. Like this slide, we could redact this piece and then we could share it with the Brits. Then we could redact it this we could share with, the Indians. And then these, and it was just a mess. And then there was this leakage and spillage of information all over, and then investigations and all the time, and money wasted in trying to like track down if information leaked to somebody it wasn't supposed to go to. So I can completely see the test case in government, at least as an enterprise solution to kind of manage data and have this accountability. And especially in government where, I guess you're using kind of business to say, yeah, there's a high consequence in, business if data leaks or is mishandled. Same in government, there's some data leaks or mismanagement in government, and then, everybody kind of like hears about it. So
very true. No, very true, Greg. You bring up a very interesting point. If you look at the underlying, commonalities, right? One entity, government or business, sharing information with other entities. And they can control it because it's outside the firewall. Mm. It's another business, it's another part of the world. So how do you protect that, right? And it can go down to the, not just a document, this paragraph within a document as an example, right? So how do you truly allow that? So you do two things. One, only the right person can see it. Secondly, what can that person do with the data? Mm. Can they read it? Can they only share it with their enterprise, their domain, or they go beyond that? All of that you can now enable. So you then secure that your armored car, it will not allow them to do anything more, right? That's what we want to do. Clearly enterprises, meaning government too, we don't spend a lot on government thinking, but the fundamental principle you applied is exactly right on. Same need.
Yeah, as you track data and you're just tracking, when it comes down to this databasing and tracking, when you look at the blockchain, it is just an alternative way of databasing.
Correct.
And how you choose to do that is where I'm learning. You can do certain things off block and then bring it back onto the block, and that saves up time and transaction gas expenditures and things like that. So that's where I'm seeing that where this application you've built is designed to meet a big customer's needs that way. Right.
And in fact, and if you go beyond that, right, you take a thought even further. Let's start with data. And then what if you bring in transaction capability as well, right? To be able to move value for a purchase order, right? Or then it becomes even more interesting, right? Mm-hmm. So if you look at the enterprise stack, right? I'm an enterprise guy. I kind of think how we look at enterprises, right? There are systems of transaction like ERP, the systems of engagement, right? Whether it's CRM or community, what have you. The systems of record, like BI, business objects kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. What we said is, let's start with the systems of engagement and record first. Because disrupting a system of transactions is very difficult. It's very interwoven, right? So don't go there first. Engagement is where the leaks happen. Mm-hmm. That's where the data happens. Let's disrupt that first, right? If we do that well, you can really do fundamentally transformative things, right? And as I took this to, I'll give you an example. I took it to, as I was building this, it's not fully built, but as we were solutioning this, we took it to the head of blockchain at ENY, the head of blockchain at PayPal, the CTO at Zurich Insurance, the CIO of Nissan, the senior execs, 3 of them at SAP. And the feedback was, guys, if you solve this, the way you're looking at it is very, very fundamentally transformative, right? Because it allows us to do things that we cannot even conceive today. And that's the power of blockchain, to do things that you cannot do today because the platform and the tech does not exist. And to do it, it'll take you 3 years to build something custom, right?
That are literally just kind of like a matter of function within the blockchain. That's the dynamic shift.
That's exactly.
And as a small business guy, and I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, I probably have some big companies' proprietary information, but your buddy there has kind of said, hey, you didn't get this from me. kind of thing. But I can see where you're talking about people at that echelon. You said, what, the CIO of Nissan or something like that? That's kind of like, yeah, I can see where this is going, where, yeah, it's not up to the honor or the ethics of the individual employee.
That's exactly right.
That's your vulnerability point that you're like taking away. And as you're talking, I'm sitting there going, okay, maybe that's the indicator and where the blockchain can help. If we're ever looking at relying on somebody's honor, you're at a crutch point, And I say, because I've started thinking about this with the blockchain and thinking about all our old heroes. We used to need heroes that were these exemplary ideas of what it is to be a model citizen or community member. Well, as the blockchain comes along and takes away a lot of kind of like ability to cheat other people, we may not need those like George Washingtons that never told a lie. Like, why would you need a fable like that? Because you need people to like do the right thing at the right time.
I think it will help people do the right thing with tech, right?
And that's what you're doing is, you're allowing, these companies a medium in which, it's not dependent on human choice as much.
Correct.
You're limiting your vulnerabilities because a lot of the algorithms are taking care of these functions.
That's exactly right. And given our enterprise DNA, we look at it very much from a business perspective, right? Needs perspective. Because end of the day, if businesses adopt blockchain, it'll be the next hockey stick curve for the whole industry at large, right? Mm-hmm. Right now, enterprises are really, trying to feel blockchain, have skunkwork projects going. They really haven't adopted en masse, right? So how do you bring something value that it really truly transforms the broader software industry, right? And I look at multiple tech, right, in my regular thing, which is if you look at blockchain and you compare it to other tech pieces, right? Blockchain is so fundamentally order of magnitude transformative, right? Of course, big data is important, AI is important, AR is important. But this is so fundamentally out there that if we do it right as an industry, we can fundamentally provide a lot of value to all of us in the ecosystem.
Well, you just brought up an interesting point is the way I kind of see it is the blockchain is kind of the foundation for a lot of these other technologies, because ultimately you're going to be able to run machine learning against the blockchain. You're going to be able to run AR applications on top of the blockchain. So the blockchain kind of becomes this foundational layer where all your data is being stored, in this distributed ledger or decentralized ledger system. And then you have that permissioning, you have that business framework kind of built and baked into the system. And then now you can build all these extra applications, you can do all these extra services, and you can build all these other and implement all these other technologies. So you can, now you can run machine learning data. You could take, IBM's Watson and run it against your blockchain and pull analytics from your data now, and be able to do that in a way that you couldn't necessarily do before because you didn't have that same blockchain framework that kind of, makes your business function a certain way. So it allows it essentially allows, especially the people who develop the blockchain itself, to kind of architect how they want their business to function. And that's kind of where the blockchain, differs from previous systems and previous databases. If you went and bought a database today, your standard centralized database, it's kind of, you get what they're selling you. You get Oracle as is, you get Salesforce as is. You don't have a lot of customization there. So with blockchain, you have the ability now to be able to have interconnected and integrated systems that now you can build additional layers and implement different technologies into. So blockchain kind of becomes that foundational layer for, if you're looking at it from like a tech stack perspective, blockchain's kind of at the bottom. And that's going to give us the tools that we can then layer all these new technologies on top of.
Very much so. A good way to look at it, like the way you said, Trent, is blockchain is the internet.
Yeah.
And will allow other applications like the browsers to take advantage of it, right? It's that foundational from a capability perspective, right? So any application, whether it's consumer focused or business focused, right? Or government focused for that matter, can ride off the benefits, the plumbing, the amazing capabilities of blockchain, right? And it's not currency alone. Currency is just a nice shiny object. It goes way beyond that, right? Mm-hmm. It can transform how we bank. It can transform how we send money. It'll transform how we take care of our healthcare data. It'll transform how we vote, for that matter. It'll transform how business and engage with you and among themselves, right? So it really touches many, many things. And unlike in any other thing, it's truly denationalized, right? If you think about it, it's not centralized.
Yeah.
So the idea of decentralization, along with all the other elements of blockchain, can do fundamentally magical things, right? Is the power and the potential.
And so, Salim, so to walk us through, an employee's day is different. That from somebody, two employees going into work, one goes into a work firm that has Loyakk as an operating system, and one is on the old system. What's different in the day of the person that walks into that enterprise that's run on your blockchain?
Yeah. So let's start with John, who's walking in today's world, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll take a high-tech example because it's easy to conceive, right? He walks in and he says, okay, good, I'm working on this deal now, and I want to share some information with a partner. So what does he do? He calls a guy. Hey, listen, I'm working on a deal. It's worth whatever else. What do you think? So the guy says, send me something, right? Okay. So what does John do? John gets to email, copies and pastes something, sends it to the other party and says, hey, listen, don't forward this. It's confidential, right? Then he works with multiple other partners, right? Hey, we both need to do a POC. Let's get a design firm involved. Hey, CC, but don't forward this. So he basically is spending time setting permissions in the real world and warning people and telling people, right? And once he sends it off, he's hoping nothing goes out because he's sending the email, but hopefully nothing goes out, right? Mm-hmm. So the idea being that he's spending valuable time doing basic orchestration, telling people what to do, warning them not to share, cutting and pasting, so creating the information buckets, permissioning them in the real world, and then communicating. Right? Think of that. It's all basically busy work, right? Because the real work begins.
His own algorithm. He's like involved in his own algorithm.
Correct.
Yeah.
And using tool that is to mimic what should be done in software, right? But he's not. He's kind of calling, emailing, cutting and pasting. Mm-hmm. Now let's take Steve. Steve comes in. He has Loyakk application powering all enterprise relationship. He comes in, he says, okay, well, I need to share this information with party A in New York. He drags and drops something into this envelope on his desktop, says, this is intended for XYZ. He can only read it. One button click, it's gone. He knows information is going to the other party. It will not be shared. It's fully traceable. It's fully auditable. So what took him probably half a day, he can do in less than a minute, with all the benefit that comes to it. And you multiply that with multiple people across the enterprise who do this on a daily basis, right? So it's a problem of scale and problem that, that you just cannot mimic today without software. You're asking people to spend valuable time, not selling, not doing deals, not engaging with partners, instead doing this basic transactive stuff to do your job.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that's a good way to demonstrate how the algorithm like enhances the human condition and productivity at work and doesn't dictate to them.
That's exactly right.
Because I've often allowed my mind to look at it. And once again, being, in the government system, there was things I didn't want to do as an employee. And so I've looked at the blockchain and it looks like something like if I'm coming into work and I'm looking, at Loyakk's, guiding all my work functions, there was professionalization within the government that I hated, like learning how to like handle government budgets and this, that, and the other. And I often feel like had there been some kind of governing system that was immutable and shared with everybody, like a coin system, like if the employee comes in like, oh, I got to take this class or I have to do this HR function, and then I receive a coin that kind of sticks with me. Earn the coin. So there's a gamification part of this, and then it's registered. My action was registered on, this enterprise blockchain, and I can always prove that I took this class, that I did this professionalization course, and then I was incentivized through the change, or the coinage to do it, and then that coin would obviously go toward promotion. So that's where I've been kind of like seeing it when I started reading your website and your white papers to kind of say, okay, this is like measuring employee transactions and productivity, which like Trent said, would allow, machines to observe what's happening within an enterprise and recommend or start dictating kind of efficiency measures through the, a learning apparatus and smart contracts. and then, incentivize employees to do things that may not be desirable, in their day, that are like essential business necessities. And so, yeah, that's why it was amazing to have your company's like ideas come at us and see like how this works. How are you going to get millennials to work in your space in the future? People often say, oh, millennials need constant feedback and a lot of constant governance. Well, the blockchain brings that. They can get governance through managers can write smart contracts and dictate workflow. And then employees sit there and like do it in the most efficient way, and it's being completely observed through machines. So that's where I interpreted your functionality.
No, it's very interesting, right? Greg, you're right. If you look at the average crypto buyers today, right? If you segment them, it's fascinating. 16 to 24 is where the 80% are. These guys are living in a world, it is native to them. Right? They don't think too much about buying, half an ETH or 0.01 BTC, right? It doesn't matter. So they're not as concerned about, hey, what, it's anonymous, I need 2 wallets for one for ETC, one. It's all native to them, right? So that's how they behave, right? If you look at what we do today, businesses solve problems using, 3 ways. Either they put people on it, they put process on it, or they put a lot of time on it. They do all of this because the tech doesn't exist. If we say, guys, the tech will help you solve all this, right? Like you said in the government, why are you retracting this paragraph versus the other paragraph? Because you have no other way to retract. You are kind of blacking out, right? Then saying it needs to only go there. And then warn them, you can't share, right? All of that the people, the process, and the time can be shrunk dramatically with something like blockchain, and incremental value comes out of that.
And that's right. Yeah. So that complete efficiency and based in nature, when you're not asking humans to do anything different to be better, you're giving them tools, they're allowing them to do better. So when I saw your website again, I was like, maybe I should invest in anybody that adopts these systems, because their employees will be, exactly how well your employees are functioning. And then, like I said, that ability to then have machines observe your enterprise transactions and workflow and kind of recommend efficiency measures. Those companies are going to outperform the ones that are still basically on the honor system.
That's right. That's exactly right.
But all your employees are on the honor system that they're going to do what their job descriptions are.
That's right.
As opposed to having an algorithm that make them do the jobs that they were hired.
It's almost like the smart contract notion, right? A smart contract is not just a legal document a la a legal physical contract. It's also an enforcer. So how do you have a legal statement of record plus an enforcer come together seamlessly, right? If you do that, then you are leveraging the power of blockchain, because it's not just this is what you're supposed to do, I'm going to enforce it as well, latently, subtly, but it's there. So you're taking the risk and the ownership out of the individual to do the right thing.
Yeah, and it's creating in the rules, the set known of rules. So if we engage on an application, business to business, both businesses are already agreeing upon those rules.
Correct.
I was on a podcast, somebody else's podcast yesterday, and I got to have a good line where we were talking about ISIS. And I was like, ISIS proves a point that bad rules are better than no rules. And so now that's kind of like what applied. Like you're applying rules to work, and that kind of keeps everybody in that space and keeps human effort dedicated to what the outcome needs to be or wanted to be. And so, man, what a way to now really put all human interaction on that same page. And that's what you're doing. So if you're, like you said, Nissan or something like that, you're setting the rules for your workers to be most effective, and then putting them on that, you're setting everybody up for success at that point. That's
right. And in our case, right, we focus more on inter-company engagement, right?
Okay.
So that's where we see the value being, sales data, business data, deal data, right? Or supply chain data, all of that. Any data needs to go, leave your firewall and go outside. Guys, you are relying on honor codes and old processes and good governance, hopefully. That is not going to go anywhere, right? But it doesn't work that way. Let's remove the risk. Let's automate it. And guess what? We have a phenomenal tool we didn't have 5 years back, really. Blockchain to do that.
Yeah. And you could quickly build, like, say I'm a small business guy and I link up to a bigger company, just quickly download a software package and now we're all using the same apps, right?
That's right. That's right.
Wow.
We're building, enabling enterprise to build their own networks. It'll be a network or network. So one partner may be part of G network and the SAP network and the BMW network. Doesn't matter. They have their own network, or they can go participate in multiple networks.
Salim, can you speak a little bit to scalability? Because one of the major differences in enterprise versus, small business and, some of the other applications of blockchain is scalability, is the ability to serve, thousands of customers, thousands of partners, thousands of employees, in some cases, millions. So can you kind of go into scalability and kind of what you think about scalability and how it applies to blockchain and what you guys are doing?
Yes, certainly. That's a very interesting and thoughtful question, Trent. One of the big concerns we all have is that blockchain is how scalable is it? How much throughput can you drive through blockchain? And the reason for that is every node is a full node. It retains all state of each and every other node. That's how blockchain keeps itself in sync, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you do that, what happens is it's a heavy node by the very nature. So what we've done is looked at it from a different perspective and said, guys, if we look at the notion of a nested node, what happens? Right now it's all linear nodes. We said, forget that. Let's apply enterprise hierarchical nested node structure. So we are propounding the fact that if we had a nested node structure, then all nodes need not be full nodes. You could have a lean node. That's something we've patented, by the way. We filed a couple of patents, and this is one of those patents which is now we can talk about. So if you have a lean node, that lean node will allow you to have significantly more throughput because they're not all reading the same state. You don't have to.
Yeah.
So that'll allow us significantly for an enterprise to mirror their organizational structure. CMO or chief revenue officer has 5 different groups: one north, one south, east, and west, whatever. And what the south guy can share with a partner will be different from what the north guy can share, as an example. So a nested structure allows you to do that and allows you to scale as well. So we are really looking at innovations such as a nested node architecture within blockchain to really transform the scalability dimension significantly.
I learned new terms: lean node and a nested.
And it is published in our white paper, by the way. So we've actually, as I said, we filed a couple of patents, and this is one of those things that we have filed. We spent a lot of time thinking and debugging, figuring out how can we optimize it better for the enterprise business world, right? That's what we've been trying to do.
And hey, so you kind of get into this now too. Talk about your team. I noticed some really big names and kind of like accomplished people on your team. How were you able to get those people? And
No, thank you. So the core team, right? We are based here in Silicon Valley. We have presence in London. We have presence in India as well. Now, our DNA primarily is enterprise. SAP, Siebel, VMware, Symantec, IBM. Very hardcore enterprise guys. What we did then is we brought onto our team very strong technology, architects, and blockchain talent. Because the thing is, you got to mirror both. One will not solve the problem. You're able to bring a very unique combination of very savvy enterprise DNA with very deep blockchain DNA. That's the team we built. Hence the reason to, think this through, file the patent, and think about all the problems that Trent mentioned about scalability is one example, right? That's how we were able to solve it. As we started doing this and we started talking to people, we got some very fascinating people who want to join us, be involved with what we are doing, because they see this as being very, very interesting. For example, Jonathan Becker, who was the CM of SAP. Tony Thomas, who was the CIO for Global Nissan. Patricia was the CIO for McAfee, right? So we have some really interesting people who are really fascinated and totally bought into our vision of what we're trying to do. Because they looked and saying, we looked at multiple things, but what you guys are doing and propounding is fundamentally transformative. And if you guys do it right, this is a home run. So we were very lucky and blessed to have these people buy into a vision and join us in this journey of really transforming enterprise applications.
Oh, wow. And how long has the team been together? How long have you been working on this project?
Yeah, we've been working on the team has been around for 2.5 years, 3 years close to.
Oh, wow.
We launched our first offering that people like SAP, Infosys, Emphasis, Novartis bought last year. The blockchain aspect started about 18 months back. So we've been architecting blockchain and doing all the patent stuff. So we've come together in the last 2.5 years really to really transform what we believe is the next big innovation on the enterprise application side.
Okay, great. And have you had a token sale, or are you guys going on sale, or?
Yeah, so we've just announced a token sale. It'll go live on Feb 23rd, about roughly 4 weeks from now. That's what we're planning to do. And we debated a lot whether should we do a token sale, because we can raise money using other means too, by the way. So it wasn't necessarily the fact that we needed capital. That wasn't the big drive. The fact that we need talent as well. And ICOs are a great way to get good talent, top marquee talent, right? Because otherwise, if you raise money from a VC in the Bay Area and try to raise talent, who the heck are you, right? I mean, the blockchain guys don't know you.
Uh-huh.
If we want to hire talent where they are, there'll be a guy in Bulgaria who may be phenomenal, a guy in Russia, a guy in South Korea. That's the way for us to get the right talent as well. Because my big concern going forward, Greg and Trent, is the right technical talent needs to come on board. And luckily, we've been lucky there. We already hired 4 people. We're going to hire more. And already we're getting resumes as we speak. Because our word gets out, what we're doing, we're getting a good mix of people who understand the enterprise stack. Hey, listen, I'm now doing blockchain. I want to come and help you guys, right? So it's been very fascinating for us to see.
No, yeah, and we're kind of in the same boat where, as we're pursuing our coin and our ICO, and then people are coming at us, and then you're starting to find a lot of talent in Europe, and because we're working in an environmental issue. Of course, the Europeans are a little bit more advanced on kind of even believing in climate change. So then you get a different realm of investor and things like that. So are you finding the talent there in California, or are you branching out? Like, where are you finding the best blockchain talent? And are the Indian coders have some kind of commonality that you're noticing that the Ukrainians have different, or, what are you seeing in that market?
Yeah, it's fascinating. The blockchain talent pool mirrors the blockchain Bitcoin currency pool, meaning it's not tied to any one nation like the US or the Valley. In fact, the Valley is actually pretty bad on that dimension. The talent we find in the Valley is great for enterprise application, consumer application. With the blockchain, we are behind, truth be told, right? In fact, even East Coast is better from a talent perspective, because for fintech, right? You have guys in Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan writing stuff, which is good for us, right? Find a lot of good talent coming from Eastern Europe, because they've been a little ahead. Estonia, for example, Russia, very and much more advanced on the blockchain principles and tech. Good talent coming from South Africa, ironically. Good talent coming from Asia as well, South Korea, India to some extent. And the interesting part is to have not blockchain purists. We want blockchain plus enterprise stack understanding.
That's right. I see that.
If you just do blockchain, you don't understand the business processes. For enterprise, then it's a difficult wall to kind of jump over, right? Difficult. So we are trying for the blend, where understand enterprise behavior, understand how businesses consume software, how they use software. Of course, you need blockchain as well. So that's the sweet spot we are trying to dive. And luckily, there is a good pool. The pool is increasing, but that's been our sweet spot.
That's right. Yeah. So not only have we been looking out and expanding our coder network with some of the people we've been working with, and then too, we've had to compete. We were talking to a group of doctors working on cancer research, and, they're talking to other firms to help them launch their ICO. And they were talking to Indians and Canadians. I was like, hey, they're great, but we're right here and there's no cultural barriers or time zones. We started winning on that one. But, they're totally recognizing that those areas in the world can produce some really great technical talent, and keeps us on our A game. And but we just kind of feel confident and fortunate enough that we're all actually all in a collaborative state within the blockchain. So whatever they're doing in these other countries that are promoting the industry, I feel we're all benefiting from it.
Oh, totally. Yeah, because absolutely. You know what, we're all growing the pie together.
No, absolutely.
The pie is hardly grown. I mean, it's still grown. I mean, if you see Bitcoin, it's grown a lot, but frankly, it's a lot more. We're just in the early stages right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the belief that, talent can be anywhere. We don't care when you come to work. We don't care what you wear to work. We don't care how you look like, right? Just, it's all managed by, we have a project to do, we have a task to do, we get it done on time with the highest quality. That's what we care about, right? Because everything else is noise.
No, absolutely.
Fully
And how
agree.
about in your vision, 6 months down the road, who do you think will be, as you're doing your negotiations, do you have some companies that are talking to you about implementation? And
Yeah. So we've been talking to quite a few customers and partners.
mm-hmm.
And for example, one of our customers and partners is Emphasis. It's $1 billion services firm. So we are working with them on customers in the insurance industry. See, the insurance industry is fascinating. There's the consumer, there's the insurance broker, there's service providers, there are underwriters. A very complex web of network of participants. So we're working with them on solving that problem with some very interesting customers. We are working with a big tech firm who really wants to help us solve the channel problem. Very complex channel, data needs to be shared, discount needs to be shared, promotion needs to be shared. We're working with them as well. Lastly, we're working with a very big insurance firm in Latin America who has a very specific need in terms of solving a reinsurance problem of network of resellers. So we're going to work with them as well. So we have quite a few. It's interesting, a lot of them are looking for a very specific use case, which today we are providing to them, right? Because if you look at blockchain, platform enterprise can consume. What does it mean? Give me something very tangible. I can solve this problem, this use case for you. So we've been looking at it from an industry perspective, this for high tech, this for insurance, this for government, whatever, right? That's how we've been looking at it.
Oh, great. All right.
And that's great. It's a great dialogue. Thank you. It's a very, invigorating dialogue that we had so far. So fundamentally, right, Loyakk is trying to really transform how enterprise engage with their partner ecosystem. The supply chain, partners, resellers, channel, all of that. And I believe is if we do it right, this will be the next very compelling enterprise application giant that we could build. And we're doing it using blockchain, which is allowing us to do things that we even could not think about 10 years back. Right? And because bolting on blockchain is not an easy thing. You got to start fresh. You got to do ground up. This is not a forklift upgrade, right? I mean, it is fundamentally a new transformative project that we're working on. So very excited. Clearly, it's a lot of work to be done. Our ICO launches on the Feb 23rd. That's obviously there as well. So we're really excited, and we believe that the whole industry can benefit from all our contributions, right? What you are doing, what we are doing, what Civic is doing, what Ripple is doing, right? We really think it will be very, very transformative.
No, yeah, and I appreciate it, Salim, because you've opened up my mind to how the blockchain can be applied, and you answer that annoying internet question of how is the next generation of worker going to work when they constantly need to be told what to do? And like, oh, I know Salim and he fixed that. That's how you're going to do it. They're going to have computer-aided algorithms that constantly tell them what to do. And they're going to get constantly rewarded with meta currencies and cryptocurrencies within that system that give them that dopamine reward to make sure workers are feeling appreciated. And this could be a new level of happiness among workers. That would be a nice data point to get amongst your future clients to say, hey, you know what? We took employees' productivity up and we took their happiness up. Because I come from two kind of past work environments where we had high suicide rates. It is always interesting to hear, people come in and say, hey, how do we make you happier? Because apparently everybody's killing themselves. So if you come in and you start helping people create value every day of their lives and their professional work, you will increase their happiness levels. Cortisol levels in communities go up. I can walk this dog along where as you aid the human existence and really help people feel good about themselves and what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. Because there's a lot of people that go to work that don't understand where they are. There's a lot of human productivity that's lost in frustration and groups that are disjointed. And if you can help these groups have a better connectivity and work better, daily lives are better, and things just function better. So I appreciate your work and what you're doing, and I think there's going to be impact beyond what we're probably estimating today. So thank you for your time and for coming on the show.
No, thank you, Trent, Greg. Appreciate it. Fascinating dialogue. I'm sure we'll stay connected.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks for being on.
Absolutely, guys. Bye now.